Let's finish it.
As you climb that ladder, low A, high A, double A, triple A, getting into the majors, how much did the culture change? Because you're getting ever so closer to that big contract, and everybody, no matter who you are, you're thinking about that in the back of your mind, right? I mean, I didn't play professionally, so I don't know firsthand, but were the cultures different, or did it shift?
That third layer with like money and
It was
agents and
you definitely. I was signed. I'll say it. I signed for $5,000 in the 16th round as a 23-year-old. Pretty much every catcher I played with was, if they weren't a higher draft pick, they at least signed for more money.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always in the back of your head, and you also knew that the management paid attention to that. So
everything's
culture,
out in the open too,
yeah,
right? Like
everyone
knows
Yeah.
everyone's salary.
Everyone knew, and when
That's
you
what I
first
find
signed,
so
everyone's
crazy.
talking about.
Yeah.
it. It's just like a high.
Your
where
bonus,
are you committed
baby.
to?
Yeah.
Where are you
Well,
committed to?
even like the big leagues. Like if you think about it, like, oh, that guy that I'm facing right
Yeah,
now
you
just signed a
can-
$10 million contract,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or I'm trying to crack the lineup, and that guy just signed a 3-year extension.
Mm-hmm. It in the minors, it's definitely there, but you still maybe in the clubhouse it can get at times a little chippy, and when it comes to that stuff. But at the end of the day, we all knew when we stepped on the field, like we were a team, and our coaches actually did a very good job with telling us, like, all the teams I played on that did well, that's where the most of us made it to the big leagues. The teams that didn't do well, that lesser amount of guys made it. And we're like, well, we'd ask coaches, what about, were there people who you thought weren't supposed to make it who did because they're on a better team in the minors? Yes. So we were able, even when you knew you're competing for some of the same spots, well, if I don't get called up with you, there's 29 other teams.
Mm-hmm.
There's 20 other teams watching every game. So you were able to find a way to still bind around each other to play well, knowing, well, so what? If you get the chance over me, I might get the chance with someone else, or you may get hurt in a year, and now it's my chance. And so that was kind of the attitude you had to try and have. And I had a decent amount of coaches that's what they preached. And so that was able to transfer over in the clubhouse was, hey, at the end of the day, we all have the same goal. Let's all make each other better. Let's help each other out. Because selfishly, I don't want you to make it at this facility because I want to make
Mm-hmm.
it. But there's 29 other teams, and just because you make it this year doesn't mean I can't be the guy next year.
Yeah, and I
That's
think
or
that's
next
such a
week.
good aspect. Like
I think that's the professionalism aspect of it. That that at the end of the day, you are a professional, right? And I mean, that's the maturity level that you have. And I mean, deep down, you understand that a good clubhouse culture is going to make everyone play better. If everyone plays better, everyone gets more opportunities.
Exactly.
that's the same
So-
thing with high school baseball. I mean, if you play well, you're going to get more looks and get more people around you. And if you put on a show, like we were talking to Evan Pratt last episode, and he's like, man, if they're playing really well and I enjoy watching them, I'm going to go back and watch that team. Like I'm going to.
Over and over.
Yeah.
I've seen it a million times at any of those tournaments. It's that team that's loud, that's energetic, that's
Just
putting
having
on a
fun.
show.
Yeah,
That even
just having fun.
even in and out or ground balls in between innings, they're joking around, throwing the ball around, like looking really good. I mean, those are the guys. If you look behind the stands, that's where all the college coaches are.
Because at the end of the day, we're all fans of the game, right? So we want to see the game played really well. And
I'd agree.
We'll be willing to go watch it. Like
Mm-hmm.
my dad is 69 years old and he still loves watching baseball. He'll
Yep.
just come out and watch high school baseball just because. And if one of our teams isn't doing well, he's like, I'm gonna go to another game.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's how college coaches are. I want to see good baseball. If you can show me good baseball, I'll stick around.
Yeah, I mean, and to answer your question a little bit more with like, did it change? Like, yeah, every big league team had a different culture. But at the end of the day, no matter how much a guy was making or how little a guy was making, like, our butts are on TV being analyzed and overanalyzed by everyone. So like, your butt's on the line. And so when your reputation's on the line, when everything you've put into that work as a young kid's on the line, even if there's a bad culture in the clubhouse, you still got to show up.
Yeah.
And I think when guys learn how to just show up and play hard, that culture changes.
Yeah.
And it gets better, even in a bad environment. But the winning environments, like, they showed up every day, like, expecting to win. The losing environment showed up every day, expecting to lose. And sometimes it's that simple. Whether it's an old veteran guy or a young guy, it depends. But the guys that showed up and worked hard, you saw more guys show up and work hard. And so I sometimes think the culture is not so much is it are you who, rah, rah, are you this or you that? If other people see someone working hard, I think more people are willing to work hard with them Next thing you know, you have two people working hard and they like each other. Even if they can't stand each other, I respect him. He's working hard. And now you get 3, 4 guys, 5, 6 guys, 7, 8 guys doing that. And I think that's where that culture, even in the big leagues, came from, was everyone was making some of these guys making so much money, but they were some of them were the absolute hardest workers that you're like, I'll do whatever he says, just because you saw how hard he worked. So, to go back to your question really quick, that's kind of how it goes in my mind.
Does the pressure get more when you're knocking on the door of the big leagues, like you're at AAA or AA, and hey, I'm one step away, one move away, and I'm now getting paid? I don't know what the prorated pay is, but you're making close to $500,000, over $500,000, right away. So like, does the pressure surmount even more because of that dollar value?
Yes. Especially when you're a low draft pick, and not saying you're playing for the money, but at the same time, you're now a grown man who has responsibilities. You may or may not have a wife. You may or may not have a child. You have responsibilities where that money becomes very important, especially as a ball player where you can't play the rest of your life.
Well, you see all your boys like going out and having fun, and they're not playing baseball anymore, and you're like, oh crap, like, dude, I'm getting paid this much, and they're already making this much money, and I can't, like, they're asking me to go to, like, I don't know, Puerto Rico or like Europe, yeah, and you can't make that trip.
You can't. Shoot, well, you're playing 8 months a year for one. For two, in AAA, I was making $600-700 every 2 weeks after taxes, maybe $800 in AAA. So that's in your head, is you're pretty much poor at 26 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most people's careers are starting to get going. So yeah, that's definitely there, and you feel that pressure, and you definitely know, like, this is probably my chance. Like, I need to perform, and I think that's where it's just do or die at that point. And even if you don't do as well as you think you can, or those stats aren't quite there, sometimes they're not looking at, are you hitting 300? How many times are you barreling up the ball? Are you hitting the ball hard? Are you having good at bats? Are you taking your walks? When you do strike out, is it because you battled, or you just watched 3 pitches go by? Behind the plate, are you working hard? Do your pitchers like you? There's so many variables. So even when you're not having success in that one area, well, there's 10 others you can. Whether it's being a good teammate, whether it's practicing hard, whether it's the coaches like, whatever it is, there's so many other options. So you would try to deflect that pressure to a different area if you were doing poorly. You're like, all right, well, look at all the other things I'm doing well. But you feel that pressure 100%, just like you would trying to make a high school team.
Yeah.
I think it's the same pressure, and you just, as an adult, it's no different. Sophomore playing varsity in high school for myself, there's pressure every day to show up and play. I wanted to prove everyone right that a sophomore can be on this varsity team and start and do well. And that pressure doesn't change. You're just older. It's the same pressure. You're just older, more mature, and maybe have a couple more responsibilities. So I think if kids can find a way that even as a 12-year-old, that same pressure to win that tournament, or that same pressure to have a good at-bats, have a good attitude and worried maybe your dad's going to get upset or something, is the same pressure I had in the big leagues. It's just there's a little bit more of it, but now you're an adult. So that pressure really shouldn't change too much, because now you're old enough to handle things a little differently.
To see more short clips of The Closing Pitch, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to Apple Podcasts and follow on Spotify to get notified on future episodes.